Imagine a time when salt wasn't just a seasoning but a precious commodity, essential for preserving food and vital for survival. Salt was more valuable than gold in many ancient civilizations. It played a crucial role in the rise of powerful empires. The Roman Empire, for example, paid soldiers in salt, giving rise to the term salary. Ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians relied on salt to store food for harsh winters and ensure trade routes flourished. In regions like Africa, the Saharan salt trade became a lifeline for many kingdoms, such as Ghana and Mali. As empires expanded, they fought over control of salt-rich areas, and the fight for salt would escalate into wars that changed the global economy forever. In this era, salt was a national treasure, not a mere commodity. Trade routes were developed to move this essential mineral, and kingdoms fortified their borders, not just against armies, but to protect their salt sources. The Great Salt Wars were born from this precious resource, highlighting its power to fuel economic growth, military conquest, and political dominance. Salt's role in shaping the world, both past and present, cannot be underestimated. The salt roads were some of the most critical trade routes in the ancient world. The Saharan salt trade connected the heart of Africa to Mediterranean and European markets. Caravans of camels and traders transported salt across the harsh desert for thousands of miles, trading it for gold, ivory, and slaves. These salt-rich regions were highly contested, with kingdoms like Ghana, Mali, and Songhai seeking control over the trade. The Saharan salt trade wasn't just about salt, it was about economic power. The more salt one controlled, the more wealth they could amass, and thus the greater their influence. Meanwhile, in Europe, Rome had its own way of monopolizing salt, imposing heavy taxes and even creating a government-controlled salt trade network. The Roman Empire's salt works were massive and key to maintaining its empire's reach. Not to be outdone, the Hanseatic League in Northern Europe built its own salt monopolies in the Baltic Sea regions. This monopoly made cities in the League incredibly prosperous, but it also sparked bitter rivalries and conflicts with neighboring states that sought to control salt for their own economic benefit. Salt wasn't just valuable, it was critical for survival, giving entire kingdoms and empires the power to dominate trade and fuel economic growth. As the world's economies grew, salt became a critical part of warfare. The 100 Years' War, 1337 to 1453, between France and England wasn't just about territorial conquest, it was about controlling salt-rich regions to fund their military campaigns. Languedoc, a key French region rich in salt, became a major point of contention. Both nations relied on salt to preserve food, pay soldiers, and fund armies, making it a key strategic asset. The French king, Philip VI, imposed the gabelle, a hefty salt tax, to control the salt trade and generate revenue. The tax was deeply unpopular and sparked revolts, including the Jacquerie Revolt of 1358. Meanwhile, England, seeking to rival France's salt monopoly, built its own strategic salt works and tried to control access to vital salt-producing areas. Both nations saw salt as more than just a mineral, it was central to their survival and military might. By controlling salt, they could fund armies, sustain trade, and extend their influence. This salt war wasn't fought solely on the battlefield but through economic strategies. The taxation of salt was a defining feature of this conflict, and it would ripple across Europe for centuries. Salt taxes didn't just fuel wars, they also sparked revolutions. The most famous of these was Mahatma Gandhi's Salt March in 1930, which became a symbol of India's struggle against British colonial rule. The British Empire controlled the salt production in India and imposed a hefty salt tax on the local population. This tax affected the poor, who relied on salt for daily survival. Gandhi, a non-violent leader, led a peaceful protest where thousands marched to the Gulf of Dandi to make their own salt. The Salt March was a turning point in India's fight for independence, drawing international attention to British colonial exploitation. It showed how a simple commodity like salt could become a symbol of oppression. It wasn't just about salt. It was about freedom, self-sufficiency, and the right to control one's own resources. The protest united people across India, making salt a rallying cry for the broader Indian independence movement. Salt taxes also played a role in the French Revolution. The gabelle tax was seen as oppressive, contributing to unrest. For many, the salt tax became the embodiment of the aristocracy's abuse of power, eventually sparking the violent changes of the revolution. The Great Salt Wars laid the foundation for modern trade and resource management, shaping both historical and modern economies. Today, salt may no longer hold the same strategic value it once did, but the lessons from salt wars still resonate in global trade. The control of vital resources continues to be at the heart of global conflicts. Countries still fight over oil, water, and rare minerals, much as they once fought over salt. The legacy of the salt tax monopolies and trade routes also contributed to the creation of modern tax systems and trade agreements. The Salt Road of ancient times paved the way for the Silk Road, which would later define global trade routes. Salt's pivotal role in history reminds us that even the smallest of resources can have a monumental impact on global power dynamics. The battles fought for salt were more than just territorial, they were battles for economic survival. Salt may have been the key to survival then, but its legacy of trade, economics, and resource control lives on in modern geopolitics today.